Greetings. I'd like to welcome everyone in our audience. We are very grateful that you have chosen to share some of your busy day with us. We know your time is valuable, and we will honor that today with what I'm confident will be an engaging discussion. Once again, our topic is turning your financial services website into a revenue engine. Our sponsor is iQuanti, our host is American Banker, and my name is Mike Sisk. I'm a contributing editor at American Banker, and I will be your moderator today. And I am very, very pleased to introduce our two speakers. We have with us today Jem Thomas. She is an ex-director of marketing at Discover with more than 15 years of experience scaling growth in financial services, and she is now working as a marketing and growth consultant. Very delighted to have Jem with us here. And also we have Vishal Maru. He is VP Product Development at iQuanti, currently leading the product Leap, which is an AI-powered experience optimization solution. And he is a product and growth leader with more than 15 years of experience in financial services. Also delighted to have Vishal here as well. And just, I wanted to reiterate two quick housekeeping things that were on that video. One is that we do have time at the end for Q&A. You don't have to wait until the end to put your question into the queue. You can do that throughout the hour as it occurs to you, get that question in there. And we'll make every effort to get to your question in the time we have today. If we run out of time, we'll definitely follow up after the program. So please ask away. We very much want to hear from you. And we do have a poll, and I always encourage 100% participation. We do share the results live here with everyone, and it's a great way to see where everyone else stands on the issue we've come together to discuss. So if you can weigh in on that poll when it comes up, that would be fantastic. And with that, I think my little opening spiel here is done. Let me officially turn things over to Vishal. Vishal, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Mike. Good afternoon, good morning, everyone. Very happy to have you guys join the webinar. And Jem, thanks for being with us today. So before we dive into the content, just a quick introduction about iQuanti. iQuanti is a performance marketing solutions firm. We primarily focused in the financial services vertical. We pride ourselves in leveraging deep analytics and proprietary AI technology to deliver growth across the industry. We've been around for 18 years. We have 50 plus Fortune 500 clients. And as I mentioned, we are deeply ingrained in the financial services vertical. 7 of the top 10 US banks are our clients. And we're fast growing. We've been on the Inc. 5000 list for 10 times. Right? So with that, let me quickly dive into the agenda for the day. So what we'll cover in the next 30 to 45 minutes is the evolving role of the website in this AI era. And how can you use AI to solve for the AI era challenges? What are those key pillars of the AI-led architecture? We'll get a little tactical around what are the kind of things that you can implement, and also talk about how we are solving it across different clients. And then at the end of the day, we'll have Q&A. We'll cover any questions that you may have. Right. So at the end of the session, you will leave knowing how to build for the AI era shift and how to work towards building a more scalable AI-led system that will compound over time. Right? So let's get started with the evolving role of the website. Right? So one thing we're seeing in this AI era is customer behavior is changing really fast. Right? We see more than 55% of the users have used AI for personal finance related queries, which is significantly higher than what it was in the past. And with this, what we're seeing is the traffic that's coming to the website is also going down. We're seeing 10 to 30% drop in organic and overall traffic coming to the website. And while AI and LLM is driving traffic, that traffic is significantly smaller, but that traffic is converting significantly higher, right? So this is all new for financial services and across all industries, right? So with this shift, there's significant impact in how marketers approach marketing and acquisition. So Jem, as we're seeing this shift, what should brands be doing? How should they be thinking about this shift?
So I'll first describe the three shifts that are happening as a part of our prospects and our customers using more of LLMs. So the first one is that the one that is most visible. That is, they are already coming to the website after completing the education and comparison phase. They have compared products. They have learned how they work. They have also stacked against your competitors before they arrive on the website, which means that the visit is no longer the beginning of the journey, and the page that greets them have to earn their decision to have visited the website. The second is around, they expect you to remember context. LLMs remember context, and they do an excellent job of interpreting the why behind the questions that the customer is asking, and they mask everything else. So customer is being trained daily in their interactions with Claude and ChatGPT and Gemini to expect this everywhere. So when they come to your site or your app, or read your follow-up email, generic messages feels like broken messages to them. The third is around patience. The patience is low and this bar keeps raising. So AI has reset the speed baseline to nearly zero. Every interaction now competes against a tool that doesn't have office hours and doesn't say call back on Monday, and it answers everything in 2 seconds. So if a company does not is not available to answer the customer's question with the right context and with the depth that they're looking for, then those companies are going to lose out. So how does that change how you approach the website, right? So now the website has to address the needs for three different audiences. The first is the AI agent itself. So there is a considerable amount of research that shows that a lot of the traffic coming to the website today is not humans, it is AI agents, right? So you have to your website has to be agent ready, and agent AI agents really like structured data. So you have to, lean into the latest guidance on whether it's schema.org or llms.txt. Make sure that the information that you want the agents to consume about your website is available in that structured format for the agents to consume. And don't forget about off-site signals either. So your PR stories, the reviews, and social media that's out there, that's content for the models to consume as well. So if you don't control the story that is being said in those on those surfaces, then your brand story is going to get out of hand. So make sure that you are able to control those surfaces as well. The second is the informed visitor. So, as discussed earlier, the visitor has already learned about you. So, the website is no longer required to educate this visitor, but they have to go deeper in the funnel. It has to act like a skilled sales person, something that used to happen over the phone or in the branches previously. It has to validate their decision, handle objections expertly, and lay out clear next steps. And the last is probably the most undervalued and underappreciated right now is life cycle marketing for your existing customers. You can see the need forming in the customer before it, based on the transaction patterns and life stage they are. Leverage your own surfaces, the site, the app, the web visit, in order to be that advisor for that customer. Don't lose that customer to a LLM search, because reacquiring that customer is a costly mistake today, and it is just going to become costlier in the future. Lastly, I want to say that as AI goes mainstream, we also have to think about differentiation. It gets harder. It probably is already getting harder, which means that brands need rethinking too. Brands has always been about building trust, confidence, and emotional connection. And just like the transition to the digital era, the transition to the AI era is redefining those surfaces on which these things happen, where you build trust, where you gain confidence, and how that emotional connection is created. So brands have to think about the personality of the AI agents you are creating. They have to think about the context that is going into the agents that is being created, and on all the other surfaces that the LLMs and generic LLMs are learning from. So the winners aren't the ones who are using the smartest AI, but they are also the ones that were expressing the brand's expertise and values and judgments the best.
Yep, that makes sense. And this is one aspect of AI, right? Where the shift in the AI era or caused by AI era, marketers have to rethink, how they approach the websites. On the second side, AI is providing a lot of tools to marketers, which can help them make the right sort of shifts, right? But what we're seeing is AI is being used, but it is not delivering enough impact. And I can give a small anecdote over here. You know, one of the clients that we work with, we're managing all of acquisition for them. They must have used Claude to come up with a design for a landing page by giving it a few prompts. While the design looked pretty, it did not. It wasn't brand ready. It did not address a lot of the decision criteria that their customers state that they use for deciding on a product. It did not include a lot of the uh, objection handling that the customers have. So this is the problem that we see. Like, it is being used, people are prompting, but it's not driving business impact. It's just leading to faster chaos, right? So how do we solve for this, right? So we need to think about moving from using ad hoc AI to really building scalable AI systems. And as we think about building scalable AI systems, we need to think about this AI maturity framework, right? So we look at this 5 different steps in AI maturity. The first is where you start with awareness, where you're just recognizing the potential and exploring very early use cases to actively experimenting with some pilot projects and some AI tools to operationalizing it, where you integrating it into your processes, and then moving it to more systemic, where you embedding it across the enterprise, to making it transformational, where you achieving full AI integration and focusing on innovation, right? So let's do a quick poll to understand where you think your marketing team's current AI maturity sits. Right? So you should be seeing a poll on your screen. So if you can quickly respond, let me give you 30 seconds, and then we can quickly take a look at the results. All right, let's take a look at the results. Right. So yeah, so majority of the attendees over here are between step 1 and 2, and this is pretty representative, of the industry, right? Jem, is this something that you have seen as well?
Yeah, yeah, I would totally agree. In financial services, especially one and two, and experimentation is probably where we are, and it is in line with the risks in the industry. So the regulatory requirements are real, and the caution is warranted. I also recently, through my consulting engagements, have had the opportunity to work with several B2B SaaS companies, and where this barrier is a little lower. And so I do see them moving from experimentation to actually deploying the work. And what I'm seeing is the companies that are actually able to move from three into three and four, they are doing that by redesigning how they do the work. So it is as much a technical challenge as it is an operational and organizational challenge. So they need to rethink how processes work, how people are deployed, and how handoffs within organizations work. And those are the companies that are seeing the most success.
Yes. So yeah, so let's get into that, right? So when we think about the architecture, we think about the product architecture and then the operational architecture. So when we think about the product architecture, if we're moving from prompting, we need to move towards a building an AI system which has these 3 pillars, right? So the first pillar is centralized intelligence layer. So this is where all of the data, all of the context sits, right? The second is the executional pillar, right? So which is where you have the different agents, tools, workflows, right? Which actually executes across a lot of different use cases. And then finally, you have the trust layer. And this is extremely important for enterprises, especially in more regulated industries. And over here, we have things like human in the loop, plus governance, plus EVAS, which will help, ensure that the AI systems that you're building are reliable, are scalable, right? And we'll get into each of these in little bit more detail. So let's start with the context bit. Jem, you wanna provide a little bit of context
Yeah,
over
so
here?
thanks, Vishal. So this is extremely interesting. I mean, I again, my recent engagement that I was assisting an AI startup. Um, it was interesting to see how important context is. So if you provided no context to the LLM, you're going to just get an average output, and you can substantially improve the output that you're getting by providing it the right context. So if you tell it what what your customers are, your segments is, what your operate your competitive playbook is, then the results that you get from it is substantially better and more on point. And so that's the easiest, best lever that you can use. I do want to caution against too much context too. So the one of the problems that I have seen, I have had the opportunity to observe, is that currently in our organizations we have information that is scattered, and not all our documentation basically is organized in a way that are mutually exclusive. You have contradicting information, overlapping information, outdated information, and sometimes too much information for an agent that you are building. And if you dump all this into the agent that you're creating, the output of that agent is going to deteriorate as well. It creates noise and it creates suboptimal answers. So the goal isn't to maximize context, and it is to have minimum sufficient context for the agent that you're building. So if an agent is conducting competitive research, it doesn't need access to your compliance policies or your branding color scheme, right? So you want to make sure that you're giving the information that is right for the agent that you're building. And this approach does two things. One is that it improves the output quality, which we already hit upon, but it also protects your intellectual property, and you're not sending all the information about the organization into a public LLM. And the final thing that I'm also seeing as companies move into 3 and 4 is that this is a lot of work. Maintaining the context isn't a one time exercise. You have to have processes around it to make sure that it is continuing to be refreshed, and it is maintained in the way that LLMs can consume productivity. So this is a knowledge management framework that has also to be built around the context management.
Yep. And a simple way to structure the context, right? And this is an example of a Claude agent, right? So if you performing a specific task, you can upload all of the relevant files for the task into that project, right? And the best way to upload context is in MD files, right? You can upload any files, but with all of these LLMs, they can read the MD files the best, right? So whether it is the persona, the journeys, the pain points of your customers, your brand positioning, differentiators, the brand guidelines, any sort of compliance guidelines, right? I would recommend translating all of those things into a structured .md file, which is a markdown file. It's essentially a text file which has certain structure in it. It's very easy to build that, and you can actually use LLMs to build those .md files, right? So this is going to be a one-time effort, and you can build those MD files and layer it in different projects or agents that you might be building out. And if you had to take away one thing, from the webinar today, I would say this should be it, right? Like layering it context can really elevate, the quality of outputs that you get from LLMs. Um, then the second is around building different agents, right? The execution layer. And then can be different types of agents. There can be like simple automation where you automating performance insights or competitive analysis, to having more specialized agents which have more reasoning power. It could be like a legal and compliance lead, right? Or leveraging a lot of existing tools which are already there in the market. And then the last one is where when you get really, really mature, you can translate into building end-to-end agentic workflows, right? Um, and to take an example of a simple agent, right? One of the use cases that we're showcasing over here is building a senior compliance counsel, right? And this is an area where there is a lot of friction, wherein marketers and legal teams go back and forth, and it takes several weeks to even get a simple copy or content piece approved, right? So what if you had a senior legal compliance counsel on demand, which could do the first review of the draft and provide you feedback? It doesn't eliminate the need of a counsel, obviously, but it reduces the back and forth that you might have. So building any agent, there's few aspects, right? So first is you giving it a persona, right? So you can give the persona of a legal counsel who has expertise in UDAP, fair lending, and relevant regulations, providing it specific instructions in terms of what exactly you want the agent to do. And then the third most important piece is providing it a lot of relevant data and context, right? So there are generic, UDAP and fair lending guidelines, but there might be a lot of internal guidelines which might be specific to your product, your business, your brand, right? Any sort of disclosure requirement, again, specific to your product. Even if you've received any sort of past legal feedback or any rejections, providing that information will be really helpful. And any sort of specific TNCs, disclosures, disclaimers specific to different offers, products that you may have, right? So what this helps is like anytime you have a new content, new copy, you can run it past this agent first, and it will flag a lot of the issues upfront, which you can address, and then take the revised version to your legal and compliance team, right? Thus reducing a lot of back and forth. Right? So this is one example. And moving into the third pillar, which is the trust, right? So the idea is, a lot of people can build agents, right? And uh, the challenge that we encounter is a lot of those agents are not scalable for an enterprise, right? So to build uh, AI for enterprise, you want to make sure that you have certain governance in place, right? So one is human in the loop, right? So we want to automate as much as possible, but wherever there is high impact decisions, more strategic aspects that come into play, you want to make sure that you have workflows which have human in the loop. The second is governance, right? So over here, what data can agents access? What agents can be used by what teams? How are you making sure that the costs are not going through the roof, right? So a lot of governance that comes into play. And evals. So evals is basically a technique to measure the quality of output of agents and agentic systems. In the traditional software context, you have UATs, but with traditional software, the outputs are typically binary, right? At pass or fail. But over here, the outputs can be on a spectrum. So evals is a technique which helps measure the quality of outputs that's generated by AI systems, right? So this is more from a technology standpoint, how you build, the right sort of system that is scalable. But the other aspect is operationalization of this at an enterprise level, right? So Jem, if you can touch on like how do you make this real for an enterprise?
Yeah, so I we were identifying three different pillars for the enterprise also to make changes in step change along with AI adoption, and these three also get in the way of actually recognizing the value of AI within an organization. So when there's all this conversation about there's a lot of AI, but it's not being operationalized within an organization, some of these are what is getting in the way. So first is rethinking your process. So one simple example I keep giving everybody is, if you are thinking about website, improving the speed at which website optimizations happen, so you want the AI to actually identify that for a particular segment there are some opportunities to improve the creative, and then you want the AI to actually produce the creative and deploy the creative and test it out for you. All of these steps can be done in a very short period of time, for from a technology perspective, right? But today we cannot do it because we need to take those creatives, put it through copy approval. We have to give handoffs to the technology team, and there's a whole bunch of processes that we have built, um, good processes that work to reduce risks within the current environment, but which act as blockers when we are trying to really get that force multiplier from an AI perspective. And so the process has to change. The legal team has to get comfortable with reviewing context, reviewing prompts, reviewing guardrails, and that requires us to, the legal team to reevaluate the risks in looking at, evaluating different sets of artifacts than they were used to evaluating, as well as redefining this whole step around the organization. So that's a big bottleneck in the process, because the value realization cannot happen in silos within a single organization, since the real value is cut across organizations, and that requires process reengineering. The second is around people. The people in the seats that we have today are there because they have been insanely successful at their jobs. They know what they're doing, they have great instincts, they understand what they're doing. Now they have to relearn what the work that they're doing using a different set of tools. And that is initially going to slow them down. The results are going to look rough, and it is going to take a while to rebuild that skill. I myself has felt that friction several times when I have switched to AI to do competitive research or to do analytics, where I feel like I already know the results by looking at the platform, and now I have to use AI and put the guardrails, put the context in, make sure that the results are not there's no it's valid results and grounded in reality. All of those checks require time and effort for me to learn, but it and so in the interim my productivity drops, right? And so what the organization needs is, transition for the people is not only the AI training that is required to get the technical aspects, but also creating a safe environment for the workforce to experience that dip and the opportunity to reskill. The last is around data. And here I'm not just talking about data and plumbing, which is also a problem for our organizations, because not all of the decision making KPIs are readily available in systems that can be fed into AI systems. And so that is definitely a technical barrier that the organizations have to overcome. But the bigger problem is that all the different teams within an organization has a different lens on performance. Marketing may focus on acquisition, finance may focus on profitability, risk may focus on losses, product is focused on engagement. And today, all these different diverse perspectives, though are all valid and important, can exist in separation, because there are people who sit in between the data and the decision making to help with the reconciliation when these priorities don't always align. So they are able to evaluate this on a case by case basis. But when AI becomes embedded into decision making, this alignment has to happen ahead of time. The system needs clarity on what it is optimizing towards, what trade-offs are acceptable, what guardrails it should operate within. And this is a real leadership challenge, because these different leaders within the organization have to come around and have to decide what those guardrails are that you're going to let the AI optimize towards. And that's not something that we already have today. Um, I would, if you're going to the next slide, I would be remiss as a marketer and to not talk about the impact of AI homogenization on this whole adoption phase, right? There's a considerable amount of research that shows that while AI lifts individual productivity and creativity of an individual, it does not improve the creativity and quality of a diverse group of people. So AI does not outperform a diverse set of human beings. And so, in other words, everybody's work gets better, but everybody's work looks the same. And this is a real problem as a brand marketer, right? That's if uh, our entire job is to look different and to stand out within the offering that is there out in the marketplace. So what does this mean? Do we use less AI? The answer is simply no. We cannot afford it, right? We have to use AI, and then it becomes a strategic decision as to where do we involve AI, and there's human in the loop, and where does it is actually primarily human with AI in the loop, right? So that's a strategic decision that marketing leaders have to make today. So give let AI scale the work that benefits from consistency. So where there's research, there's analysis, there's reporting, there's summarization, there's compliance reviews, those make sense to delegate to an AI process, where consistency is better than differentiation. But we need to protect the areas of work that actually benefits from differentiation. So whether it's your positioning, your brand voice, the judgment or the strategic bet that you're going to make against conventional wisdom, all of those belong to a human with maybe some assistance from AI. And most importantly, you have to protect diversity of thought within your team. So you have to build teams that bring that diverse group of ideas together, because the models are learning from everything that has already happened, and it is this diverse group of human beings that are going to create something new that has never happened. And so this originality becomes the differentiator, and so there is also the strategic aspect of as a marketer to bring in that into your organization.
Yeah, and this is extremely important, right? And it's so easy to just lean back on AI, even with different aspects of content generation, design, right? But those are the areas where you really want creativity to shine. And the way we think about it is AI helps accelerate, but humans elevate, right? So you never want to underestimate the impact that a human can create in the AI world, right? Um, so we talked about the architecture both from a product standpoint, operational standpoint, the role of humans in the entire process. So just want to give an example of the solution that we've built at iQuanti, and how we approached the architecture. And this will help you see how all of these different pieces that we spoke about come together, right? So Leap is our AI-led solution for conversion optimization. It helps with experimentation. And this is what the solution architecture looks like, right? So there is this intelligence layer wherein we have, our proprietary intelligence, right? So we have been monitoring 1,000+ URLs, and we have insights into what has been tested, what has been optimized, in those places. So that's an intelligence that we have gathered. We've done 5,000+ hours of, UX research, understanding what are the different experiences, functionalities that resonate with different users. So we have all of that proprietary research, and this is grounded in a client context, right? So any sort of client performance data, information on their specific user segments, their personas, the pain points that they face, right? So all of this constitutes the intelligence layer. And then you have the orchestration layer, where you have these multi-agent orchestration, whether it is agents that help with insights, with help with scoring different experiences with comparative benchmarking, right? So it helps identify what are the big opportunities, how do we solve for those opportunities, what do we build that will elevate the experiences, right? And then we understand that enterprises have existing martech stacks, right? So we don't want to build anything that is not going to be deployable in the existing stack, right? So whether using Adobe, Salesforce, Target, Optimizely, everything that we build integrates seamlessly with the existing stack, right? And then the last bit at the bottom, we see the human in the loop layer, right? Again, a very, very important layer. So having the right sort of experts with industry knowledge for building strategy, for driving creativity, for validation, right? So this is how we think about the architecture of a lot of the solutions. And just to give examples of some of the agents that we built out, is one is UX scoring. So this is what Jim was alluding to. Like there's a lot of aspects which are more grunt work, which is looking at an experience and identifying what are the different gaps within experience. So we've built our conversion scoring model, which looks at 100 plus signals, which is backed with data and evidence and grounded in your context of your data and your user research, your segments and personas, and quickly identifies, okay, what are the different gaps in terms of your experience. It can quickly benchmark your experience against those direct competitors, some of the best in class players. This is something that takes a long time for humans to do it manually. So this can be done on a click of a button, right, and at scale. And then finally, also context-aware rapid prototyping. This is another area where it takes a lot of time. Going from insights to identifying opportunities to coming up with recommended approaches, and then wireframing, prototyping, designing them, right? So this particular agent can has understanding of all of that context, all of that gaps, and can create rapid prototypes of different concepts. And this is where different teams can come together for ideation, for feedback collection, for validating different concepts. And this expedites cycles which would take a few weeks to even months to accomplish, right? So this is how we are leveraging AI to really optimize the entire experience optimization process. What used to take weeks and months to build and optimize, now it can be done within a few days. Um, so that's a little bit about our solution. Now, shifting gears again, right? We spoke about how the consumer behavior is evolving, right? Uh, if we think about a year, 2 years, 3 years down the line, what would websites of the future look like, right? How do we think about that? Where is this going, right? So again, this is a very fast evolving space and no one has the answer, but there are a few trends that we are seeing out there, right? Uh, the idea is people are interacting more and more with AI, right? It's becoming more conversational. Uh, are websites going to evolve from those static, experiences of product page, category pages to more of a conversational, interface? We're seeing one example of Better Mortgage, which has taken a bet, right? So they have, redesigned their entire homepage with a conversational chatbot, right? So this is a big bet that they have taken. We're not seeing a lot of websites move in this direction just as yet, but they are incorporating more and more chat-like functionalities within their existing experience, right? Uh, Jem, you also have another example, right?
Yeah, so I wanted to say that, the organization that I was recently working with is also doing this for B2B SaaS companies, so helping them bring their sales agents to the website. So really helping companies actually do a lot of the selling cycle on the website itself instead of waiting, especially when it comes to complex products that needs a lot of explanation and integration type questions that is actually more is difficult to be organized in the current typical website format. If all of you have not checked out in Synthesia, I would also suggest you take a look at that. You probably have seen some version of AI avatars out there. So the technology is still evolving, where the voice processing and the two-way conversations is getting better every day, but it's not still completely seamless. And the way these agents can pull up information as needed, so you're having a conversation that's sounds nearly like a human, is not completely there. It's not seamless, but you can definitely see how the quality is improving on a site like Synthesia.
Yeah. All right. So we've covered a lot of ground today. Now, what are things that you can start implementing? How will you start on Monday next week, right? So one mental model that we want you to leave with is AI isn't about prompting, it's about building systems, having the right sort of context layer with the right sort of orchestration and right sort of trust, built in, right? Jem, anything else you want to add?
Yeah, so definitely, I mean, I was going to just categorize this as, three pieces of things that you could think of. One is as a practitioner, right? As an individual, what can you do? We talked a lot about context and, really actively thinking about the context, using shared context even for a small team, and centralizing the information that you're creating that can go into context for your agents. That is definitely one big unlock. So think about what you're doing. Even a Claude project could help you unlock value by if you do that, right? The other thing is, all the tools that we currently have, they are all deploying more and more AI solutions within them. So if you don't have direct access to Claude or ChatGPT or Gemini to start building connectors and tools, you can use it through the tools that you already have. So think about if you're using HubSpots or Salesforce or and even Vishal's tool, and those tools are rapidly deploying AI solutions within them. So uh, exploring those, and now that you have understood some of the way you can manipulate the output in ways that is most constructive and differentiated for your organization, you can start becoming the expert at how to unlock value from those AI tools that exist within tools that you already have. The second would be to business leaders. I mean, a lot of this has to come in actually rethinking your organization. So create a small cross-functional team of your most adventurous team, and help them, allow them to re-architect a process that is existing within the organization, and fund the learning curve for your team, including the training, as well as giving permission for that productivity dip that would come with reapplying new tools within old context. Um, and then, as a tech leader listening to this conversation, I would tell you that the last mile is the hardest one, right? It is, you've already solved the technical problems, you've already figured out the model, but compliance, integration, governance, those are real hurdles in this solution actually getting adopted in production for a business team. And the business team is not necessarily completely aware of all the technical ways those problems can be solved. And so, if both the tech and the business leaders can sit together and think about the problems that they're facing, you have better chances of actually solving it. So, for example, when you design guardrails, you don't have a blanket guardrail for all problems, right? A regulatory process requires a much stricter guardrail than probably competitive research. So you want to set guardrails that are in line with the problems that you're trying to solve. And so understanding a little bit of that between the business leader and the tech leader would help speed up this adoption as well.
Yeah, completely makes sense. Um, so cool. So this is, this covers, all of the content that we wanted to discuss today. Just as a quick takeaway, for everyone who attended, what we are offering is a complimentary leap assessment. So if you're interested, if you want to send us, a couple of pages that you need this assessment for, we can provide a detailed, UX scoring and benchmarking report and help you identify some key opportunities and translate that into a prioritized roadmap. So yeah, so if you are interested, you can reach out to me at this email address or connect with me on LinkedIn, and we are happy to share this complimentary assessment with you. Um, Again, thank you so much for attending. Hope you found this valuable. Mike, passing it back to you.
Excellent. Excellent. Yeah. So happy to jump in here. We've got a little bit of time here, as we said we would, for some questions from the audience. So if something's on your mind, now is definitely the moment to get that into the queue. But we have got some good ones in here already. So let's just jump right in. So first question. With your solution, is there a way to govern marketing ROI with varying token intensity approaches that is required for different types of marketing? For instance, static execution to highly contextual hyper-personalization.
Yeah, so that's a great question. And with AI adoption increasing across organizations, cost is becoming a big concern, right? And there are a few techniques to reduce those costs or control, the amounts of tokens that are consumed, right? I think one easy way to keep some tabs on it is context layering, right? So if you have like a lot of the context, already built into different projects, built into different agents, it eliminates, that necessity to like provide a lot more context with every prompt to go, back and forth a lot. So that's one way. The other thing is which LLM model you want to use for what sort of a task, right? So you can start putting or leveraging lower level models for very simple tasks versus using and only using like really high level models when you know that some of the analysis or the task is a little bit more complex, right? So those are and again, there will be some level of governance framework that will have to come into play to achieve this, and you'll have to work closely with your tech team to operationalize this, right? Jem, any other thoughts from you on that?
No, that sounds right. I mean, picking the right LLMs to use for the right question also is important. I there is considerable number of organizations are beginning to design that for how the how the organization uses LLM. So it's automatically picking the right LLM to use. I would say yeah, this is becoming a hot topic that um, organizations are starting to look at as the costs are increasing with the LLM usage.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you both. All right. Next question here. Here we go. You had mentioned the importance of shaping your offsite footprint to win in this new discovery landscape. What areas would you recommend brands to focus on to have the biggest impact to influence LLM citations and sentiment?
Jen, you wanna
That
take
there
that?
is there is a considerable amount of research that shows that social media is citation the chatter on social media is definitely important, and LLMs tend to use that information for recommendations. So for financial services, especially Reddit is important, and how you show up on Reddit is in terms of sentiments. Think about all the reviews that exist not only on your website but all the reviews that exist outside of your website. Many of our brands have traditionally focused on the reviews that customers give us, but not as much about the reviews that exist outside. So making sure all the reviews out there, if there are negative reviews, making sure that you respond to those, and soliciting reviews actively is a good way of getting positive reviews, because customers who are tend to post negative reviews are motivated to do so. They had a negative experience, but the positive ones don't tend to happen unless you ask for it. So influencing those positive reviews is also important in order to control that sentiment outside of your organization.
Yeah, and a couple of other things in addition to that are having an aggregator and review ecosystem where you can claim and own your own Trustpilot profile. You can establish relationships with different aggregators. Uh, uh, they can provide like detailed reviews about your products. There could be editorial partnerships. We can do outreach to the likes of Investopedia, Yahoo Finance. So there can be like a very holistic strategy that can help you establish a presence outside of your own website as well.
Deeper partnerships help. Previously we've probably engaged in partnerships that involve us listing or maybe a one or two articles, but actually sharing an ecosystem, and where you can add incremental value by being a partner. That those kind of deeper relationships also could help increase your footprint in positive ways.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you both again for those answers. And let's see. One more question here. So, Vishal, most of our website analytics already sit in tools like Google Analytics or Adobe. What does AI actually do differently that these platforms can't?
Yeah, so we should think about AI like how we think about Microsoft Office or any like tools that we use, right? Uh, like we use all of these Microsoft Office tools, like whether it is Excel or Word, without thinking. Like that's just like a tool that is available to us, and that's how AI is becoming, right? Like it's going to be embedded across all different tools, all different products that you use, right? So it's going to be there by default, right? Now you have to figure out what is the use case that you are trying to solve for, right? Sure, like there are going to be AI led tools available in a lot of the platforms, whether it is Adobe or Salesforce that you're using. There are going to be AI tools available in that, but what is the use case that you're trying to solve? Are those existing tools solving for that use case? Or there is a different use case for which you need to build something or leverage a different tool to accomplish, right? So yeah, so there is going to be AI across the board. Think use case first and then pick a tool that helps you solve for that.
Fantastic, fantastic. Vishal, thank you. Jem, thank you. I think that is a great note to end on. I want to thank you both for your expertise here today. Good discussion. And of course, everyone in the audience, really appreciate your time here today, for participating in that poll and for asking these great questions. And just keep an eye out in your email, please. We'll be sending you a follow-up email that'll have a link to a recording of this event and some other materials. So please do keep an eye out for that. And with that, I will officially wrap it up. Wish everyone a wonderful rest of the day. And I hope you'll join us again here soon. Thanks so much.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.